Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this King of the Hill, the first day of two, where 2 out of the 5 rounds will be contested today. My name is Ernest Page, and of course, this is the King of the Hill virtual Simola Hillclimb, powered by Monarch Neisner Speed Festival, ATK, and Kailami 9 Hour. Now, this is done concurrently with the real world event, which is currently taking place in Neisner. And yesterday, we started things off with our own Classic Friday, where Dennis Mitchell took the championship, where it's reserved usually for some older cars. But today, things are going to be a little bit more modern as drivers go up the hill in GT3 cars today, and tomorrow in even more special equipment. Today I'm joined by Daniel Haynes, and as you can see in the background there on his picture, no stranger to sim racing and quite the demon in a sim himself, or so he says. Daniel, how you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm not quite as big as a demon as some of these guys, I don't think. But I'm looking forward to it. Yesterday, I had enough time to just calm down because that was super exciting. It basically went down to the final run of the hill, and it was all decided. Yeah. And arguably, Dennis took a bit of a surprise victory. But I'm wondering whether we see the same here in the King of the Hill event. Today is not necessarily where they're going to win it, but it's certainly where they can lose it. So the first 2 runs are vital just to make sure you're in contention for tomorrow, the really big one where we're in some major machinery. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it goes. Nerves are building amongst all the drivers, I'm sure. We could see it in their faces yesterday, and we're going to have the webcams up again today. So we're going to keep an eye out for who's got their chilled face on and which one's got a bit more anxiety. There's going to be a few nervous drivers on stream, I'm sure.
I love what you said there, Daniel. It's certainly not the way they can win it. And I went karting yesterday and made the critical mistake of trying to win it in the first couple of laps. And this is exactly what needs to happen here. Don't try and win it on the first round or 2, but you certainly can lose it. And we saw that happening yesterday with fame into the competition. Charles Wilkin, unfortunately, making a mistake on the final run up the hill, giving Dennis Mitchell the win. But I think Dennis Mitchell also kind of grabbed it with his consistency over those 3 races. Yassine Manuel came second yesterday, and he was Mr. Consistency, but also the surprise of the group. Today, a few familiar names will be contending, and some of these guys will be guys from yesterday, but also a few new names to add to that list. But I mean, these drivers, as you say, Daniel, are exceptionally fast up the hill. And from the ads earlier on, hill. This, of course, is crafted directly from the real world street where the Simola Hill Climb takes place, detailed by Monarch, expertly detailed by the team at Monarch, making sure that every single amber, every single is identical to the real thing. So these drivers have been practicing and practicing. But one of the things I spoke about yesterday, Daniel, is that it's not about who gets the fastest time in seeding, and we're going to look at those seeding times in a moment. It's about who gets the fastest time on the day that is closest to their best seeding time. Now, Dan, you were tasked this week by our production. Have a look at the cars that were taking part in the vision. And the first of those cars is this Benz AMG GT3. Tell us a bit more about this car, Dan.
Yes, we've got 2 cars today. We've got this one, the AMG GT3, and then which is just a full-on track car. So, I mean, the drivers will be very experienced with this in Assetto Corsa with GT3 racing. It's very familiar to them. It's a fantastic vehicle. And then we move on to something arguably a little bit trickier to get a handle on with the 911, which is a road-going version of a GT3 car, effectively, and is a bit slower. But they are 2 quite manageable cars, and it's a good selection to sort of ease themselves into this King of the Hill Championship, because tomorrow's vehicles will be much more of a handful than these 2, I feel.
Yeah, tomorrow's cars are going to be shatteringly fast, but an interesting start, if you will, which takes place over 2 days, and the championship points get tallied up, and at the end we crown our King of the Hill. Drivers are lucky enough today to have it spread out over 2 days, or maybe not, because I think some sleepless nights will be had tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Especially if they have a good run today in these 2 cars and they're in contention for tomorrow. You've got the nerves going through to a whole nother day. But this Merc is interesting. The 2 cars we have today are very, very similar in horsepower, and also even in weight. So you'd think they'd effectively be the same time, but the difference between a road-going race car and an actual race car is about 4 seconds. So we're expecting times in this AMG to be about 4 seconds quicker than the 911. Just difference between the suspension, brakes, and tyres, no doubt. But here we have the seeding times for the Mercedes-Benz GT3.
Well, Emile de Villiers tops the seeding times, and he is the son of Jeremy de Villiers, who yesterday finished fourth in the standings, but was in it for title contention, finished second in the field. Was right up yesterday. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make the top three, but Emile de Villiers flying the de Villiers flag very high there with the 37.6. That's 0.2 of a second faster than favorite going into yesterday, Charles Wilkin. Ruan Stevens, who also took part yesterday with a valiant showing, is lying in third. And, you know, a lot of these names are familiar. Dennis Mitchell, yesterday's winner. And the thing is, Dan, is that you can see that certain types of cars, like myself, I prefer road-going cars over high downforce GT3 cars. We're seeing that here, that certain drivers might prefer today. So yesterday's results are not telling of what we could see over the next 2 days.
No, it definitely is. It's a whole different type of driving, isn't it? Like you say, and if your road going is more familiar to the majority of the people, because we don't get an opportunity to drive GT3 cars in real life, certainly not most of us. We would love to, but it's not something available to us. So naturally, you're going to be quicker on a road going car. We did see yesterday that effectively seeding times were irrelevant because the majority of drivers were taking much more cautious lines because of what was at stake. You hit those tyres and you get a DNF and you're effectively out of the championship. So the ones that were taking more of a risk, or anyone able to get close to their PB time, as we see Yassine Manuel down in 8th, don't let that fool you. He was being sandbagging on all of the seeding time charts because he was effectively beating or matching his PB in his run, whereas the really quick guys at the top were a good second, sometimes even 2 seconds off their seeding time.
Yeah, I think Yassine Manuel's biggest up because we now know exactly what he's trying to do here. He's probably practicing his butt off offline and then going online and doing one tiny little seeding run, little slow outlap seeding run. But yeah, it really has come down to who is able to get the closest to their. Why is that such a big deal? Well, drivers line up in such a pressure cooker situation. They get a run in the qualifying, which effectively is not that relevant, but then whatever happens in the qualifying dictates the mental state going into the actual race, and drivers once again only get one chance to go up the hill. So if your best time is 37.6 and you were only able to get that best time once out of now you've got to somehow try and get your best possible run time. And then what goes through the mind of a driver? Then, of course, let's see if I should, it's possible. Maybe I should push harder because I'm currently be in the top 3 or whatever the case may be. There's so many things that could be going on. Times popping up in each driver what they're doing. I mean, this is to line up for a nail-biting finish, and that's what we saw yesterday. And Daniel, that's what I'm expecting to see over the next 2 days again.
Yeah, I think today it's not a time to try and push your luck today, is it, in these 2 runs? I mean, we'll see whether someone really wants to take a risk. One of the lower seeded drivers just think, well, I might as well send it, and you never know what could happen. I could get myself into contention for the final day. But I'll be expecting the top boys, Emile de Villiers and Charles Wilkin, to match sort of what they did in the early stages of yesterday. And just try and they won't be looking to get those 37 times here in this Mercedes-Benz, for example. They'll be more than happy with a mid-38, even a 39. But it'll be interesting to see who's prepared. It's very much risk-reward in a hill climb, and in a short hill climb where you just can't recover from a mistake, even more so. So different drivers will be having different tactics. But today, for sure, is all about just making sure you're there or thereabouts for the major run tomorrow.
Really not possible to recover from these mistakes, is it? Because like even a mistake on the start line, wheels spinning off the line, is momentum is lost. The first we saw is absolutely critical to get up the hill as fast as possible. Then, of course, the hard braking zone into the very long sweeping and tightening left-hander, also absolutely critical. So these drivers have to string together not necessarily the perfect lap, but as perfect a lap as possible. So that's again why this lands up being an absolute pressure cooker and such entertaining racing to watch. I mean, I do enjoy watching other forms of motorsport from time to time and commentating on other forms of motorsport from time to time. But short form racing like this is exceptionally entertaining because it's all or nothing every single time.
Yeah, and we saw with Charles Wilkin yesterday, he had effectively 6 trips up the hill and he only made one mistake. It was just unfortunate. It was in that tight left-hander you're talking about, turn 3 or 4, where the back end of the Ferrari just stepped out and the momentum lost from that one error basically cost him the classic championship. So it's unfortunate for him, but it was only one mistake and that's it. It's curtains for him, I'm afraid.
I do think the mistake compounded later on because I think he was out of his rhythm and ended up, I think, 7th in that heat, which pushed him down to 3rd in the championship standings. And he just missed out by 2 points from joining Dennis Mitchell on the top spot of the podium there. 1 point to Yassin Manuel in 2nd place. And I mean, that's how quickly it happens from someone that dominated all the way through. And I certainly was guilty of the commentator's curse, thinking that Charles would... I
think we both were.
The competition. yeah, that he would walk the competition. But that just leads me into the fact that these guys here, anything can happen. We don't know where Dennis Mitchell's going to end up. We don't know where Leon Leroux's going to end up, Yassin Manuel or Charles Wilkin. So we're just waiting for the production team to get our server up and running, and then we can kick things off. But we should be up and going in a few moments. I mean, I'm excited to see exactly what's going to happen with this Mercedes-Benz. 280 kilometers an hour top speed. I don't think they'll be using much of that up the hill, but they certainly will be using all of that 520 horsepower and 600 Newton meters of torque, trying to get up and through this course as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and this, I mean, they can't, just a reminder for people, these are fixed setups, so they can't change too much in this car, but they have got a little bit more available to them than they did yesterday, as in they can change the electronics in it, so they can have a fiddle with the ABS, they can have a fiddle with the traction control, and they can change brake bias. So I'm no doubt competitors will have got themselves settings that they feel most comfortable with that can either keep them in control of the car or maybe be a bit quicker. But if anyone's got any recommendations while we're waiting for the service to kick in, just a reminder to hashtag VSH2021. And then any comments can come up on screen or questions you may have. So that's hashtag VSH2021. That's the hashtag we're using for this event.
What is a H exactly, Daniel?
No, yeah, I mean you've got to love the British accent, haven't you? For the Africans, maybe you should just repeat that so they can understand you and you can translate.
So let me say it in our local dialect. That is hashtag VSH 2021.
That's what I said.
Daniel, yeah, but it's nice to have you in the booth, Daniel. I was just telling a friend of mine earlier on that your voice sounds like motorsport. So it's a pleasure to have you in the commentary booth. And I'm looking forward to, once again, spending the afternoon when you had a great third round. I think things sort of warmed up as the day went on. And the action continued up until the last race. It was really action-packed. And this kind of format does lend itself to that kind of racing, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. I mean, that was what's surprising. We had almost a 2-hour stream yesterday, and we didn't know who the winner was going to be until the last few minutes. And that's what's so exciting on these hill climbs. I mean, it's great for us as commentators and you guys as spectators. Absolutely horrific if you're the person behind the wheel, because at no point can you relax. You never build up a 10-second gap and you're just coasting it to the checkered flag. You've got to try and be on it right from that start line. In fact, the most important part of your run is the start. So these guys, I mean, I know they're going to be nervous. It's totally different from what they've practiced, where they've had hundreds of runs and all of a sudden you just get a perfect one from nowhere. This is not the case at all. It's all about average pace, really, and keeping your cool. So we had a brilliant time yesterday. Today we'll set it up so nicely for tomorrow's final, which is just going to be a nail-biting finish. I know it is, because you just can't afford a single DNF in 5 cars. Even one would be detrimental to your championship.
Yeah. And that's exactly how you could lose this thing before it's even gotten to the halfway mark. I mean, a DNF in round 1 would be catastrophic for these guys. But most of them are professionals, and it's unfortunate, yesterday with what happened to Charles. He was, in my mind, tipped to take the whole thing. But as you said, one mistake. But someone that didn't make as many mistakes, certainly over the course of those 3 rounds, was Dennis Mitchell. So watch out for him as he makes his way through the field today from 5th position. I'm sure that's going to change. Morne Deploy yesterday finishing out in 8th. Very consistent, but we'll see how he does there in 4th position.
Yeah, I feel like Morne needed to...
third placement.
Sorry, Ernest. I feel like Morne didn't really show his full hand yesterday, did he? He was maybe a little bit too cautious, but he might have learned from the classic Hillclimb, and then he'll have a different tactic for King of Hill, something to watch for.
Something definitely to watch for. And Emile de Villiers, just 16 years old and the son of Jeremy de Villiers. I mean, he could be the fastest of the de Villiers clan. Certainly with that pace in seeding, he's 0.2 of a second up on Charles Wilken. That's a big jump in pace there. We've not seen that kind of gap, I don't think, anywhere in the seeding over the last couple of days. So the fact that Emile de Villiers goes into this with a 0.2 of a second gap in the first round of the year, I mean, he must feel pretty confident knowing they might have an absolute advantage. Just got the signal now from our producer. In these words, let's do this. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's kick off the first round of this, the King of the Hill, Simola Virtual Hill Climb, powered by Monarch, the Speed Festival, ATK, and Kailami 9 Hour. My name is Ernest Page, joined by Daniel Haynes. Let's look forward to an action-packed run as the first of our drivers makes his way to the stage over here. They call him Javier. I'm not sure where that comes from, but his real name is Emile de Villiers, son of Jeremy de Villiers, and they share a rig. And he is just 16 years old. At 14 is, I think, outdated now. He told me himself he's 16 years old and clearly drives exceptionally well. This will be his qualifying run, first run of the day. Emile de Villiers lines up looking very focused there on his Elgato powered stream over there. Off he goes, lots of wheel spin off the line, but keeps it there. Bit of tail happy action over there. I don't think he's going to be too happy with that. I'm not sure what the best way to launch this car is, but I don't think it was that. Runs wide there. Oh no, touches the tires and makes a mistake in practice. And this is what we've seen, the pressure, unfortunately,
and those
getting to
tires
there.
We've seen those tires being hit several times yesterday, didn't we? That they drift out of the understeer and just clip those, and we've never seen anyone recover from it at all, not even carrying on their run. So we had probably 4 or 5 yesterday that were, clip those tires and you're done.
So over the course of the stream, you'll see a video of our producer, Dan. You'll also happen to be the guy, flames coming out there, of the GT3, who also happens to be the producer and creator of this circuit. And he told us that he spent about a week filling those tires with concrete. So to make sure that to make sure that these guys don't do any trickery up the hill. As Charles Wilken makes his way up the hill.
Look at his face.
And,
look at his face.
He is absolutely focused there, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he's got a grimace. He's after revenge from yesterday, I think, is Charles Wilken. 3rd time lucky in the hill climb. Obviously, he also was a little bit unlucky in the last time you ran this event. So now he's thinking, King of the Hill, this one's mine. He looks determined.
Across the line, Charles Wilken looking very determined there. If anybody's got a determination face, it's Charles Wilken over there. Is Ruan Stevens. Yesterday, we saw him also doing quite well yesterday, notching up 6 points in the opening round. Let's see how he does this time. Just 23 years old, still a student, and all the way from Pretoria. We've got guys all over the country here taking part. And off he goes, Ruan Stevens. And yeah, it looks like wheel spin off the line is definitely what's needed in this car. Could it be those short ratios? These cars are designed for rolling starts, Dan. So maybe that's why the guys are hitting that clutch quite hard and getting the wheels spun up to get back into that power band.
Yeah, the starts are just going to get more and more tricky as the power goes higher and higher. Trying to get off the line without wheel spin is going to be a monumental part of a quick run up this hill, and it's just going to get harder. I think maybe the Porsche also with road going tyres, we'll see later, will also be very difficult in that respect. But Ruan Stevens has had a pretty clean run apart from that start. We're just trying to work out whether we get the times on the screens. The times are being recorded, don't worry. We just not quite got them on the stream, so we'll get that up. So we're not sure how quick that is, but it looked clean. Obviously, this is just a qualifying run. Yeah,
it looked pretty quick there from Ruan Stevens as the next driver lines up, and also someone that was with us yesterday lining up there on the start line. We're just waiting for that info. Puts the glasses on.
Where's his gloves?
Gets
Where's his
into
gloves?
focus.
I want those yellow
now
gloves.
The gloves are he's left the gloves as we switch back to none of us wearing gloves in the shot either.
Oh, gloves are off for Mornay Deploy. I think maybe he thought that was holding some time back for him, so we'll see how that works out. But we're just trying to get our timing screens up live, because a hill climb without a timing sheet is obviously going to be difficult for us, but we'll hopefully get back there now with that. There we go, some timings.
Yeah, there we go. Joel Wilkin currently on the top spot in qualifying with 9/10 of a second, with Stevens behind him. And in third place here, this is Mornay Deploy. The gloves are off this time. Yesterday he had the gloves on. So obviously made some calls there on his team side, saying, you know what, today we're going to be racing without gloves. Maybe that's a bit. Certainly some of the guys look more comfortable in this GT3 car. All that downforce, making sure the car sticks to the ground. Across the line he goes with the time off.
No time. It's waiting for it to come up. I'm sure it was, but yeah, he's an iRacer, you said. So he's a bit slower, 1.2 seconds back from Wilkins, but Wilkins hit a pretty good time of 38.396. But if he's used to iRacing, he'll be very familiar with these GT3 cars. Yeah, super familiar with them.
Does prefer tin top racing. I saw on his bio. Oh, bit of a bog there. That was the bog I was talking about earlier on. Not enough wheel spin. Car bogs down. You kind of got to test those various options though to see which one works. It might feel slower, but maybe that might be a better option to get down the first section and back up the hill. I don't know, but we're going to find out soon enough.
I don't think you're ever going to get off the line without any sort of spin whatsoever. Otherwise, you really got off a bit too slow. But these cars, that they can catch up quick. The acceleration is pretty fundamental. But it looks relatively clean from Dennis Mitchell. It was very impressive. Our VR racer. We haven't got his webcam going quite yet, but he was in VR. Our only driver in VR yesterday, and that might have kept him more focused as he crosses the line. But it's not. It's a bit slower here. 1.334 off of Wilkins' time.
1.344 off of Wilkins' time indeed. Leon Leroux back with his dog / cat over his shoulder there. And I'm sure it's a cutie.
We're going to have to ask him, aren't we, what the name of the famous dog / cat is.
Well, dog / scarf, by the looks of things.
I hope it's not a scarf. But yeah, he's off the line. It was a cleanly off, and this AMG is firing its way up. He's not running the risk of running wide into those tyres. Plenty of space given there. It will be a case of the quickest time of the guys that are prepared to push these tyres as close as possible. But it's such a risky move, because any touch and you're finished.
Leon Leroux is so calm over there. I mean, so composed, not a stress line on his brow, as he makes his way through the final section of here, the complex section, and all of these corners string together. It's so difficult to string them together one after the next. Across the line goes Leon Leroux into 5th place. This, of course, is just qualifying, so the guys could still be holding back. And someone that has been exceptionally fast, he was racing yesterday for real. This is Michael Koenig, ladies and gentlemen. 23 years old, and younger brother of Steve Koenig. Steve, very involved in the sim racing community, but Michael Koenig certainly has brought some pace along with him. Is that Steve in the background there? Could be. And Michael Koenig is definitely my wild card for today. I think we might see some serious pace from him over here. Let's watch that race. 38.3 to beat.
Which is a good time from Charles Wilkins, 38.3. I'm looking, it's very close to his PB time, so maybe a new tactic. He's not going to leave anything on the table today. He's just going to run it, but it's easy in qualifying. The next run's the important one. Michael Koenig is a new name for me. That looked like a clean start, though, so I'll be interested to see how he goes. Yeah, maybe not enough spin.
Yeah, but it was almost perfect. You know what I mean? It was almost that just spin it up into the power band versus spin it up and overspin it versus spin it up and bog it. I don't know which one works the best. They'll have to look at the data for that. But Michael Koenig makes his way through the first sweeping left hand and now up to the rest of the hill. And Michael Koenig, as I said, brother of Steve Koenig, and these boys have been very involved in real racing, single-seater racing. He's a former single-seater champion. So let's see if he can oust our current real-world racing champion, who's currently in the lead. Koenig goes 6th place, way down on the pace there. And he was top of the standings in our Friday racing, in the Classic Cup, so to speak, but unfortunately didn't make it through yesterday because of some real-world racing commitments. As Yassine Manuel, I don't trust this guy at all.
No, I don't.
I know he looks very trustworthy. He looks very trustworthy in that picture over there. But you just don't know with Yassin Manuel. You're not sure what you're going to get, is it?
No, his times are not trustworthy. I think he's been holding a few cards back, has Yassin Manuel, but it just shows that maybe a bit of spin on the line is the way forward. We don't know until they actually cross the gate right at the end. But a 1/10 gained at the start can add up to a lot by the time you get to the top of this hill, so it's very important.
Yeah. Oh, he runs a little bit wide. He has to make some corrections. They say the most important corner on a circuit is the one before the longest straight. And you got to think that the entire section running up to that first right-hander has got to be absolutely nailed perfect, including the start. And I don't think that's what happened now. Yassin all a bit all over the place now, but it's still qualifying, still early days. He goes into, let's see.
7th at the moment.
To pop up there. 7th place, yeah. So just the guys are kind of going in order at the moment. As Sean Dedenham, just 16 years old, still in high school. Look at him. Sean Dedenham, 16 years old. Looking young and fresh. I'm just jealous, Sean. I mean,
we're both jealous. We're both jealous, yeah.
That's smooth. Look at how smooth his skin is.
It's fresh, it's brand new, but I mean, he must have an advantage. His heart can cope with the higher heartbeat rate compared to us old guys, so I'm sure he'll be able to soak up more pressure than we would ever be able to do as Sean Dedenham takes it up the line.
The karting team I was part of yesterday, we were called the Has-Beens. So maybe I'm just taking a little bit personally over here. Sean Dedenham makes his way through the left hand. Oh, runs a little bit wide there. Runs a little bit wide. We're freezing on his screen. He's not really that smooth. Not much steering input from Sean Dedenham at the moment, but so far so good. Just 16 years old. So Emil is really then 14. I might have made a mistake there. Sean Dedenham is our 16-year-old. Bunch of young Thundercats on the system here today, and still lots of potential. Goes 6th place. But, you know, that's the thing about looking at these younger guys, Dan. It's just the potential, isn't it? They just hold that potential in them. And guys like us, you know, we hope best for them. But there's a little part of us that's also a little bit jealous because our potential's kind of been used up already.
100%. We're a bit bitter. As soon as we get beaten by a younger guy, we can't help but be bitter because we know we've given of our best, and yet they're only going to get better. It's very, very frustrating.
Yes.
Yeah, very frustrating.
Well, Richard Clark showing some wisdom in that beard over there, certainly starting on the start line. All the way from East London, fire coming out the side of that Mercedes. And this is the wonderful thing about sim racing. Oh, changes up to second gear, gives it a bump. I think first gear with the wheel spin is the move, babe. I think
so.
You've got to just spin those wheels up, get that car going all the way through first gear, then up into second gear. This is the wonderful thing about sim racing. We can collect guys from all across the country and pool them together in what is a very, very talent-stacked pool here today at the virtual Simola, the King of the Hill.
Yeah, that's the major advantage. We can all have a go, and there can be some hidden talent that would never get their opportunity in a race car in real life, just purely from the cost purposes of it. And all of a sudden, in the virtual world, they can show their talent.
Yeah. Well, Preach Legend 84 certainly showing his. Let's see how he gets across the line into 9th place, very close to the wall there. And if you touch that wall, it's all over, but it's not all over for him. That is just our qualifying, folks. The first round starts after this. We'll be right back after these breaks, so stay tuned for more action.
Hi, I'm Daniel Costello, and I'm the head developer of the Simola Virtual Hillclimb. So an initial basis of trying to detail the terrain was importing a Google Maps API for the latitude and longitude as well as the heighting. And then moving on from there, we got some good bumper camera footage that include pitch and roll, which was extremely accurate to start developing the road surface itself and all of the little nooks and crannies that happen within the road. Later on in the process, we started working on the modeling. So this pretty much took a photo of, say for instance, the estate gate, and sort of modeling from scratch all of the textures, all of the model's heightings, the glass panes, all of that, just from a photo. So that definitely took a while, as well as making from scratch the humans and the buildings, and it was quite intense within a 3D modeling space. Later on, once I was happy with sort of a beta version of the product, I gave it to some professional drivers, for instance the Cronje brothers, and they sort of critiqued it. I mean, they're the professionals, right? So they went and they were like, no, there's a bump in this section. This road surface here has been tarred over differently and around this corner. And they pretty much gave me the critical feedback that I needed to be able to make it as accurate as possible. Last final touch-ups that we did to the track was just sort of beautifying the area, populating it with more vegetation, humans, but more specifically than that, it was branding space, it was sponsorship space, allowing a future for the track to put in brand titles and so forth like that. You guys enjoy the track that we built here at Monarch, and I hope you guys have fun.
And we are back, folks, and Charles Wilkin is on top of the standings once again, a familiar place for him, and this time with a full second in hand. Ruan Stevens goes second position there. Mona Deploy in third, and Dennis, yesterday's winner, manages to get fourth position with Leon Leroux rounding up the top five. A couple of names there that I thought might be slightly higher up. Michael Koenig, certainly one of them, and Yassine Manuel. But again, Yassine Manuel's times cannot be trusted. I'm sure he's a trustworthy guy himself, but these times most certainly aren't.
No, definitely not. But Charles Wilkin, he's gone out and he's pushing today, you can tell, because he's only 4/10 off his PB with that qualifying run, which is, I think, as close as he's ever got to his PB in a run from yesterday. So he's not leaving anything on the table. Maybe a slightly different tack from Charles Wilkin. I just hope that he doesn't push it too much and tyres become a factor, because you just cannot hit those. You'll be finished, and Charles wants to be there or thereabouts for tomorrow's runs. But that's a bit ominous for the rest of the competitors, as they all need to be getting a lot closer to their PBs if they're going to put up a fight for the win.
Well, we've been talking about the mental game, and it certainly is the case here, because with Charles Wilkin, he's going lost. He's had yesterday to prepare. He's made a mistake yesterday. He can look at that mistake and say, that's the mistake that I'm making. I'm not making any more. You can go into this all or nothing. And also, Charles Wilkin, we forget, has spent a lot of time with the 80K Pro Series and has had a lot of success there with the 80K Pro Series. And that is an environment where cars like the Mercedes-Benz GT3, guys have to spend hours and hours and hours in those cars. So this could be the situation where Charles Wilkin finds himself in an advantageous position. But in a minute or so, we'll be starting race one, folks. This is the first of 5 races, 2 of which will take place today. Emile de Villiers will be the first of our starters, with Richard Clark following on. Of course, this runs in reverse order. So it's going to lead to an exciting finish. I can promise you that, because the fastest driver will be the last one to run. We are about 30 seconds out, and Dad, I'm hitting my knees over here and in excitement waiting for the start.
I think a few drivers will be hitting their knees in more nervous than excitement, but it's definitely, we saw yesterday, the qualifying runs, yes, it works your seeding out for your main run, but it's more of just a try and settle down, build a bit of confidence, relax, get used to the car, familiarize yourself with it before you gun it for the first time. Because we had a few guys that just absolutely messed up in their qualifying run yesterday and then blitzed it. We're looking at you, Dennis Mitchell, and the person that can't be trusted, Yassine Manuel. But so the important run is this next one, not the qualifying run.
Yeah, this one is the important one, as Javier, son of Jeremy de Villiers, and I'm sure he'll be proud to be called that, because Jeremy de Villiers gave a very good showing yesterday. Now it's his turn. Thundercat, just 14 years of age, all the way from Belleville, Cape Town, and currently seeded number 2. Gets to the start line. You'll remember that he messed up on the first corner with a much better start there. Look at that start. That was a solid start from Emile de Villiers as he makes his way into the first corner. Now he's going to maybe want to take it a little bit easier this time.
That's much better. Yeah, much better through the tyres there.
He's going to be very happy to have gotten that section over with, and now we can focus on the rest of the course. Good line so far through here, manages to keep it tight, and that's the line you want to take. Touches the grass with those right-hand 2 wheels. Now, into the final complex section, really wide there, and that's the line you want to take. You want to touch that grass on the outside over there. The tires actually do have grip there. Now making his way through the final corners. Keep it tight, Emile. All he's got to do is cross the line, and does so with a 38.5, and that's a solid time there from Emile. 38.5. Just shy of Charles' best time, and now Charles Wilkin with some pressure on his shoulders going into this race.
That's a much better time, much more calm and collected. He needed the qualifying one just to get the mistake out the way, but he's got it. He's got the time in where it counts, and a 38.517 in the actual run. I don't think it's going to be far off, you know. I think Charles Wilkin's going to have to push to beat it.
I think Charles Wilkins is going to have to push a lot to beat that. And we saw how focused Charles was earlier on saying he can beat it. I'm not saying that anybody can beat it. It's going to be Charles Wilkin. But yeah, he's definitely going to have to put the hammer down, as they say. As Rich, the legend, this is Richard Clark over here from East London, makes his way up the hill.
And he's just trying to improve or get as close as he can anywhere to his PB to put a bit of pressure on some of these faster guys. We saw yesterday that if someone has a blinder, all right, they might not be in it for the overall championship, but they're stealing points off of leaders as well. And it's a collective amount of points over 5 runs up this hill. So it's all about scoring consistent points all the way through, exactly. Not necessarily wins.
I like how you said that. I like what you said, stealing points. They're very close to that finish line over there. As you guys can see, the little bridge by the finish line. If drivers touch that, it will cause a disqualification, as Yassine Manuel, our trustworthy looking gentleman over there, student from Cape Town, South Africa.
You're not going to let him get away with that, are you?
I'm never going to let him get away. Well, let's watch. You know what? If his times are similar now, then we know, oh no, he bogs it off the line.
Yeah.
If his times are similar now, then we know yesterday was a bit of an anomaly, but Yassine Manuel coming in with, I think, some strategy here, and that's what it's all about. I mean, the rules are meant to be interpreted, and for me, if you can hold back on your ultimate time and be able to deliver on that ultimate time at the end, then why not? If that means shaking up the competition ever so slightly. We saw that team into second place yesterday in our Classic Friday. What can he do now? Very fast through that section there is Yassine Manuel, working that Mercedes-Benz right up against those tires there. You want to make sure to miss those, but such a difficult section here. The final section across the line, he goes into second place, goes Yassine Manuel.
And we see another bog on the line, causing a 1.4 second gap by the time you get to the top. So I think it's going to get more and more vital as we get to these quicker cars that start is just impossible to recover from if you mess it up.
Yeah.
So it's so vital that they get as fast a start as they possibly can.
So would it be the case of maybe using the traction control? I mean, I saw this with Andre Mercedes' real car, using the traction control and practicing with various steps of traction control to try and get the best launch, and then changing it as you go into the corners. I think that might be an option, because that's the only thing these guys are allowed to change. As Michael Koenig, brother of Stephen Koenig, the Koenig brothers, very involved in the sim racing community, makes his way up the hill.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. And he gets steps out wide. That's going to really be painful for Michael. He's not going to enjoy that when he gets across the gates. But yeah, I think you're quite right. Starting on the perfect traction control setting could be the secret here, and then dialing it back once you've got off the line. Something I'm sure some of these drivers would have looked at.
Yeah, I'm sure someone like Charles Wilkin would have looked at that. Goes into third place, 2 seconds down, does Michael Koenig. And what a pity, that big mistake there certainly cost him at least a second, as Sean Dednam, the 16-year-old. And look at him, so cute. He's adorable.
Shame, man.
And he's got...
he's going to be after you after this. He's going to be trying to hunt you down,
sure.
I think.
Well, when he's 18 years old, and I'm sure he's pumped up a bit more muscle, he's going to come hunt me down. But Sean Dednam, I mean, can you imagine being this talented and this young, and with so much potential, to grow into what is arguably, what is possibly going to be one of the forces to be reckoned with. We see it with the likes of Junior McCall in our 80K Pro Series, just evolving so fast over time as Sean Denham gets focused and in the zone as he makes his way up the hill for the first time in round 1.
And Sean Denham ripped the back tyres as he left, so we're very keen because everyone that we've said that have spun up those tyres have ended up with a keen time by the time they get to the top. But he did look quick. He's using all of the track as he comes through the final sweeping corners, just avoiding those tyres. I think he maybe could have pushed it a little bit more there, but he's coming up to go across the line. We're expecting a reasonable time here, and it is second place, 1.2 off though.
Second place, showing the older men how it's done, and I don't think that's the last we're going to see of young Sean as Leon Leroux makes his way to the start line. Leon finished sixth yesterday in the Classic Friday. Now something not so classic, but certainly a very fast Mercedes-Benz as Leon Leroux lines up on the start line. I chuckle every time I see his scarf/dog there in that picture. I think that's the reaction he wants to get from us.
He was after it and he is going to get it, but he's been a solid mid-table running, has Leon Leroux. You feel like he's got a real quick run in him somewhere. If he can match his PB at any point in these 5 cars, he looks pretty much on a straight line now. He's given plenty of space to these tyres though. That's the only thing I would comment is I could push track limits a little bit more.
I think his lines aren't as tight as they should be, but still just a second off Emil over there as Dennis Mitchell, our Classic Friday champion, lines up, managing to survive the pressure cooker that was yesterday with 3 downs. Dennis Mitchell, 41 years old from Cape Town, was ranked number 4 going into this. Bobs it on the start line in a big way. I mean, these guys just aren't getting off the line. I think that's going to be the story of this race, is getting off the line properly, and the drivers saying that they just weren't able to get those launches right every single time.
Certainly apparent that in these GT3 cars it's becoming a vital part of this hill climb is their start. But Dennis Mitchell will be buoyed by the fact that he got arguably a surprise win. It wasn't a surprise on the day because he was immensely impressive and consistent, but it's going to give him a lot of confidence going into this King of the Hill Championship. A little bit squirmish.
Dennis Mitchell getting he gets a little bit squirrely there, doesn't he? Gets a little bit squirrely there as he makes his way across the line. Very wide there, but still second place, 0.6 of a second off Emil. So another gap to the front 3, getting closer and closer with just 1 second separating the top 3 there, with Mitchell now 0.6 behind Emil as Mornay Deploy, the photographer from Mossel Bay, makes his way to the start line. And no gloves this time, as you say, and rightly so. The gloves have indeed come off for Mornay Deploy.
But they're in the background. Look, I can see them sneaking behind. I see a flash of yellow there. The gloves are off. They're in standby mode just in case he gets his sweaty hands and a bit nervous towards the end. But he's cool, calm and collected at the moment in this first run, and he gets a pretty good start.
But he ran a bit wide there. I saw a little bit of a nod on his face over there. He gave a bit of a nod of discontentment there, looks like it, as he didn't seem too happy with that line. And once again, touches the tire there. Does that round still count? I'm not
I think
sure.
it will. We've never seen anyone carry on from the tyres, but I think it will count. But it's obviously going to be massively slow now.
Massively slow across the line. He still goes fourth place, just 1.1 seconds off. He's not happy with that at all. Clips the tires there, and those concrete tires certainly have proven the demise of many of these drivers, with Ruan Stevens now lining up, just 23 years old. And Ruan also very composed behind the wheel, very focused behind the wheel is Ruan Stevens. Gets the reps all the way up. Let's watch this.
That was a better start.
That looks like the way to do it.
I think so.
Much better start. A little bit of a bog in the second gear, but then it looks so much faster down the hill, doesn't it?
It definitely does. I was surprised Mornay Deploy was only a second back. I mean, he was obviously on for a much quicker time before he clipped those tyres. But Ruan Stevens has got a good start here, and he's one of the quicker guys. So if he can just avoid the tyres but still push them, it's a balancing act between getting as close as you possibly can and just making sure you do not hit them.
I think this run here from Ruan could be a good one. His line going into that first left-hander was really good. A little bit tight now in through this section. I think some of the guys aren't using the whole track limits as maybe they should. But across the line he goes. Anyways, goes second with 0.6 of a second in hand for Javier. But here's the man we've been waiting for now. Charles Wilkin, our top seed, going into qualifying at least. Charles Wilkin, 47 years old. And I mean, look at the gap between him and our youngest competitor, just 14 years old. Joel Wilkins certainly could have been his dad. And will he be giving the young lads a bit of a spanking here today? We'll find out soon enough.
And anyone over the age of 30 is absolutely rooting for Wilkin here to show the young guys how it's done. But he's had to wait, and we saw the concentration on his face in his qualifying run, and it's here in his main run as well. It's his to be had if he could just get his qualifying run repeated, basically. But he's got Emile de Villiers' quick time to deal with.
I don't think Scholl needs to win every round. I think Scholl needs to just do okay in every round, because I don't think the standings are going to be the same for him. He's shown that he's able to get right near the top every time. So why not do that? But he's pushing so close to the tires. So close to the tires of Joel Wilkin. Joel Wilkin on the absolute limit here. Across the line. It's second place behind Emile. 1/10 of a second down, but I think he'll be happy with, oh, no, he's not. Shakes his head, 1/10 of a second down. I personally think that he's done enough to keep himself in contention. Folks, we'll be right back after this. There's so much to talk about, but we've got time to do it in the next round. Round 2 follows soon. We'll see you guys shortly.
Well, you know, when they invited me to come and experience the Simola virtual hill climb, one has got an impression about the real life event, but nobody has ever told me that we're actually going to experience this. I must tell you that I was hugely surprised as to the quality of the product. It's an amazing experience, and I immediately recognize some of the beacons. You know, it's one thing to see the road and the direction, but it's completely a different thing to realize on the left-hand side of the road, you actually see the beacons that you use as brake markers. So it was a very surprising and fantastic experience. You know, I come from the old school, so we learned motor racing through going to motor races, seeing racing drivers, and then starting to experience it. But I mean, the tools that people have nowadays, and the benefit of, if there can be any benefit of COVID-19 lockdown, it forced all of us to be far more ingenious. And what an amazing program that the South African engineers and developers have created here in our back room in Cape Town, South Africa. So you can now use the program, have a full experience of the Knysna Hillclimb, which is a very limited event with numbers of competitors, and you can do this over and over and over without spending the amounts of money that one normally does with motorsport. So now I think this is an amazing development. It's a wonderful platform. It just expands motorsport to the youth and to older people equally, that they can experience what we're experiencing as racing drivers. So it gets my 10 out of 10 support.
And the song choices here are just so good. I've been jamming and bumping to that song, but I'm also bumping and jamming to these results over here. Emile de Villiers gets 38.512 for his troubles over there and secures 12 points. just 1/10 of a second ahead of Charles Wilkin. Now, Dan, again, the psychology is heavily at play here. Emile de Villiers crashed out in the qualifying for this first round and now somehow finds himself at the top of the leaderboard. Charles Wilkin in second position, just 1/10 of a second down. Do you think Charles Wilkin and Emile de Villiers are going to be able to maintain this level going all the way through? What do you think happens next? Because I have absolutely no clue.
Yeah, I think it's a good one to settle down for, but I'm just comparing the table to the seeding times, and it's remarkably familiar, I have to say. The top three are exactly as they finished in their seedings as well, but everyone's off of their PB, obviously, as they're a little bit more cautious in this main sort of only one chance saloon run. But the overall leaderboard looks fundamentally the same, so it's not really any surprises here.
Yeah. Well, someone that I thought might do a little bit better is Dennis Mitchell, but in fact he kind of has. He's now running 4th position versus 5th. Ruan Stevens right up there in 3rd place. He was 3rd in seeding as well for this. And Sean Dednam further down, Morne Deploy, Yassine Manuel in 8th place. I think Yassine made a mistake there, and so did Michael Koenig. So they are still in this after making a couple of mistakes in round 1. But Emile de Villiers and Charles Wilkin are certainly now the 2 drivers to watch going into the next round. And the next round's car, wow, that's going to be interesting. You've got a road-going Porsche 911 GT3, which I was listening to the commentary of the Real World Hillclimb early on. Chiro de Siena commentating there mentioned that he drove the GT3 recently and that car gets off the line so easy. So now we've got a whole other different situation where we've got a car that might be able to launch a bit better, but is road going with a lot less grip and a lot less pace. So things are going to be changing for these guys, and that's another element of this hill climb, is the versatility that these drivers need to be able to compete here today, because the same skill sets required for a front-engined race car are now completely out the window for this rear-engined road car.
Yeah, and although on paper their power and weight ratio is effectively the same, it shows you the difference between a full track car and a track car for the road. As soon as you put something on the road, you have to tame it down a little bit. It's just not drivable otherwise. And we're going to see about 4 seconds difference. This 911 will be 4 seconds slower than the full track car that we've just seen in the AMG going up. So that's down to suspension, tyres, brakes, but the actual power is the same. So getting off the line is still going to be just as difficult.
The actual power is still the same, and as you say, you know, I think the difference between, some people don't realize the difference between a road car and a race car. Even a road-going race car, it's nowhere near as hardcore as something like a GT3 car, which is just absolutely designed to go as fast as possible. Someone that's been designed to go as fast as possible certainly is young Emile de Villiers. I'm sure he's been shaped and honed by his father, Jeremy de Villiers. The two of them share a rig, and that's why Jeremy's not here today. But Emile de Villiers in second place for this seeding, with Charles Wilkin pipping him there by 1/10 of a second. Similar to the results we just saw now previously, these two guys are going to be going hammer and tongs into battle for our second and final round of today. Only 2 rounds today, Dan, but tomorrow things will follow on with a further 3 rounds as these drivers continue the championship, a 5-round championship contended over 2 days. I've said it before, I really do enjoy this format, Dan.
Yeah, I think so. It's exciting, isn't it? And here, this is one where Charles Wilkin will probably be wanting to go for the win. Speaking to him a couple of days ago, the Porsche 911 was his favourite car out of all 8 vehicles he's driving this whole weekend. He really, really likes it. It's one he feels comfortable with. And you can see here, it's the one where he actually pipped Emile de Villiers in the seeding times as well. So if they can flip those 2 round as a finish here, they will effectively be going in tomorrow on the same points. So it could set it up very nicely. I don't want to jinx anything, but that's sort of what he'll be looking to achieve.
And that's what you want, though, isn't it? At this stage, that's what Charles Wilkin wants. He wants Emile de Villiers to be finishing at the highest, second with him, of course, in first. Ideally, 3rd or 4th. I mean, the numbers are playing up in these guys' heads. The calculators are starting to come out now already, because the confidence that will come from going into tomorrow, even joint first versus going in tomorrow with a deficit, is going to be very telling. But at the same time, the kind of pressure, you know, you get certain drivers that like to follow, certain drivers that are okay to lead. Some guys like to chase, so it's the psychology of this is just absolutely fascinating to me, and I can't wait to chat to more of the drivers over the course of the weekend to find out where they're at, because I know these guys are absolutely shattered after 2 days of this, based on the fact that you've got to keep your composure, man. You've got to keep your composure in such a way, no mistakes allowed.
And we went into yesterday and we got caught out a little bit because we were just talking about De Villiers and Wilkin yesterday as the ones that could win it, and they didn't. That wasn't the case whatsoever. We saw a surprise, and that could still happen. I'm looking through the seeding times. Ruin Stevens is always there or thereabouts. Dennis Mitchell, another one that was won yesterday, always there or thereabouts. So they're there to capitalise on any mistakes that potentially the quickest two, at least in the seedings, at least, if a mistake's made, a DNF happens in one of these final 4 runs, then there'll be other drivers that are more than happy to take those points away, and potentially even the championship.
Jeez, there are guys foaming at the mouth at getting some of these points. I'm sure all these drivers are going for the win today, and because of the nature of this competition, it's anybody's win for the taking. I mean, you've got guys like Ruan Stevens who are still very much in it. You've got guys like Morne Deploy, Michael Koenig, Yasin Manuel even could come back and take this whole thing based on a couple of mistakes that could happen in the front of the queue. So, anything is possible in motorsport, and in the words of old Murray Walker, anything can happen in racing, and it usually does. Monarch, of course, the people that designed this course, Dan, the man, we call him the other Dan. I'm not sure who's Dan the man though, Daniel.
That's got to go to production, Dan, hasn't it? It has to. I'm not going to take that title off him. I'm the new boy.
Let's call him Dan the man for now, because so far today's production is going really well, and he, of course, one of the guys that helped design the circuit, and having spent some time on both the real and our virtual circuit, it's just incredible how spot on it is. Speaking of virtual circuits, we are seconds out from heading to our virtual Simola Hillclimb round 2, qualifying in the Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Once again, the words ring true over the production mic over here. Let's do this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Simola Virtual Hillclimb with Charles Wilkin going out first. I think Charles' face always looks determined, doesn't it?
It just looks a tiny bit more determined than it did yesterday. I mean, the lips are tight together. He's there. I'm thinking he's gripping it. It's just slightly
lips,
stronger.
Those pursed lips.
He likes this car. This is a favourite of him for sure. He says the 911 is probably his favourite car out of all 8 for the entire weekend. So expecting good things from Charles. He says it's familiar. It handles as he expects it to do from a 911. All 911s handle the sort of same way, don't they? That Porsche feel. And it's here in the sim as well.
Oh, it's just incredible how well these cars handle. I mean, if you've ever driven a 911 GT3, it changes the way you think about how a car should drive. It feels as if everybody should just stop what they're doing and put all the engines at the back.
And yet on paper, that's so wrong, isn't it? It's on paper.
It's so wrong. It's so wrong. It's so very, very wrong. But it really feels like it's just phone BMW. Oh, Charles Wilkin sandbagging there at the end.
That was interesting. He braked on purpose and didn't want to go last. How interesting is that?
So interesting. And this is the thing. The rules are meant to be interpreted. If there is no rule about sandbagging, then you can absolutely sandbag. This purple U over here is one of the familiar colors for Porsche, one of the official colors. I think, in fact, that was the launch color for that Porsche. But I do think that wheel spin in that Porsche now is not going to do Emil any favors, and the qualifying won't be telling at all for our second place runner over here and winner of the first round.
So Emil De Villiers, it'll be interesting to see whether he goes across the line. He didn't post a time in his first qualifying run and ended up going early, didn't he? And then let Charles Wilkins stew on it and go last, who couldn't make it. But here, he is going to post a time, but that is super interesting that we've seen that Wilkins doesn't like the fact that he's got to sit there waiting. He wants to be one of the front runners and posting a benchmark for someone else to beat.
I'm sorry, I was almost interrupting you there, but I think Emil also slowed down. I heard him short shifting, I heard him lifting off the power there. I don't think that was a attack run from him, and now we're starting to see these types of tactics going, sideways moments if Ruan Stevens gets it big time sideways there. I wonder what happens if you crash in the pit lane. Do you still drive in the same car?
I think they let you start, but it's not advisable. We might see that tomorrow in the Audi R18 though, because that needs like a 3-point turn just to get out of your pit box. But here we are, Ruan Stevens. He's the third man. He's the one waiting in the wings to capitalise on any mistakes from our leaders. And he's very consistent in all the seeding times as well.
Very focused look on his face there as Ruan Stevens. This line going into this left hand, I don't think many of the guys, Ruan Stevens making a lot of adjustments there. I don't think he's getting that line right. If I were him, I'd go slightly wider there, closer to those curves. And you can see Charles Wilkin using all the road, and that's what the hill climb is. I know when I competed there, my times got faster as I used more of the width of the road. You've got to make this circuit as straight as possible, and the only way to do that is to use the width. 1 second down for our man Stevens over there as Mornay deploy slides up towards the steering wheel and slides up towards the start line.
And he's decided to keep the gloves off, even though he made that little mistake in the first run. He's persevering today with the gloves off. Mornay deploy gets off the line quite nicely, does deploy, and we'll see whether he can keep it clean. It's that tight left-hander where he just had the back end step out in the Mercedes AMG. Obviously, this is still just a qualifying run though, so it's not super important.
Yeah, not super important. I found myself getting a bit too excited for the qualifying runs yesterday. I think these guys all realize this is whatever gaps they're trying to fill, whether that's get more familiar, try something new, mental warfare, that's what this qualifying round is to each individual driver. But when it comes to the race, it's maximum attack all the way through.
And I wonder whether we see more and more of that sandbagging taking place tomorrow as people watch this back today and see, hold on a minute, I wouldn't mind going first as well. They'll all be waiting at the top for half a dozen seconds to cross the line. But Wilkins, even with his major slowdown at the top, was almost pipping Stevens, wasn't he, at only 1.1. So I think that was a real quick run until he just fully let up.
I think Charles Wilkins has real-world experience in a Porsche 911. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure
I think he has.
He's raced one of these for real. And I think he's just kind of dialed into the cars. Koenig gets ready, but Koenig jumps out. Dennis Mitchell now, our winner from yesterday. Dennis Mitchell scoring a second round win yesterday. Can he do it again today in this, the second round, the final round for today at least? Remember, folks, rounds 3, 4, and 5 take place tomorrow.
A lot of wheel
Dennis
spin.
Mitchell gets that wheel spin off the line. Oh, good launch though. Car does seem to get off the line. In case you didn't know, Dan, I commentate for the drag races at the Killarney Raceway circuit and have done so since 2005. I always say I preferred to race in circles and commentate the straight line stuff. And I've seen a few starts. I've learned to kind of recognize which ones are good, and I think that one looked good. I don't know.
Yeah, so you like a bit of wheel spin at the start, just the perfect amount, having witnessed so many good quick starts.
That's the thing. I think you want the perfect, but I've been wrong before. Close to those tires. I've been wrong before as well, because sometimes it looks fast, but it just isn't. It's all about the speed that you get at either the first corner or at the finish line. In this case, it's a drag race. I always say motorsport purists hate when I say this, but racing is effectively just a bunch of drag racing strips connected by corners. And it's about getting to that first corner as quickly as possible. It's a drag first corner. And the speed at that corner is relevant. Oh, bit of a forward flip there from Yasin Manuel. The speed at that first corner is obviously critical, but also how much wheel spin you get into the power band at the start.
Yeah,
that one looked pretty good.
That one looked good because there was a little bit of a wheel spin, but it seemed to grip quicker, didn't it? So I think this will be a good start. But Manuel's not showing the real hot temperament that he did yesterday in the classic cars. Maybe he's a little bit like you, prefers the road-going vehicles to these race cars. But this is effectively a road car anyway. I mean, it's as close to a race car as you can get on the road, let's be honest. You've got scaffolding inside still. So, yeah, it's not something you go and take your kids to school in.
Well, unless they like jungle gyms, it's probably a bad idea. Up he goes through the final section now in the Porsche 911 GT3. Yasin Manuel working the steering wheel there. And I think he's doing well. Across the line goes 6. 1.3 seconds down. Wow. So Yasin Manuel not unfortunately showing the pace he did yesterday, but still early days. Still only one and done so far, Dan. We've still got 4 rounds to complete. And we saw yesterday things changed quickly as things moved forward over the course of the day.
Yeah, and we got Wilkins not going first, so he didn't slow down enough because Manuel's behind him, even with his qualifying run. So it's not going to be the first guy out, but let's see whether Leon LaRue can pit Wilkins. I think Wilkins would have liked to have gone first by the looks of it, the amount that he slowed down. He's going to have to wait at least one run, maybe a couple by the time we finish here.
You're right, Dan. He slowed down a lot. When I looked at the slowdown, I thought, maybe a little bit of a coast over the line would be what he would do. But instead, he slammed on the brakes and totally slowed the car down, meaning he wanted to get as early of a start as possible.
I think he basically wants to be the first one up and set a benchmark, but he's not going to do that because he's already beaten two guys without realising it. So we've got Leon LaRue and Yassine Manuel, who will start before Charles Wilkins. We've got the young Sean Dednam, though. He's coming up looking concentrated. Unfortunately, he's frozen, so he looks a little bit static at the moment on his webcam. And he's off. I think he's maybe suffering with a little bit of a lag, but he's back, and hopefully that hasn't affected him at all. It's only a qualifying run, though. He will get another opportunity to get sideways there.
Woo!
Oh, that was a bit of a drift moment there, I think. A young boy can drift.
He stayed in it there, didn't he? He absolutely stayed in it. Zero hesitation, and that's that young temperament, isn't it? No fear, all in. And that's exactly what Sean Dednam did over there. 16 years old, also likes cricket, but man, this guy learns how to drive a GT3 RS, that's for sure.
I think he's spent a bit too much time on Need for Speed, though, because this shouldn't be quick if he's all this car moving about, and he comes and he hits the end. No, it's going to be a DNF, unfortunately, for Sean Dednam.
Sean Dednam then heading to the front of the queue for his next run. It's at this stage he's got to ask himself the question, let's get across that line and let's finish one of these races regardless of the result. Let's get across the line for the next one. It's early days. Let's get a banker in, or was that just a mistake that he made? But we saw across, as cool as that drift looked, Dan, you're not supposed to be doing that.
No, that's what you do offline practice to have a laugh with your mates. It's not something you do to try and set a benchmark time. It does look super cool, though, so we'll give him some extra style points to the young man as we've got Richard Clark taking the wheel. And he's made a mistake already into the tyres that we've seen happen so many times. And that's going to be another DNF.
Richard Clark left parking across the width of the circuit there in that 911. Not a pretty sight at all as he hits the tires, the concrete-filled tires in the opening corner of this qualifying for round 2, folks. We head into the second round shortly. We'll be heading into the actual second round. Michael Koenig lining up now.
His webcam's
for the first time puts on... for the first time, he put on his other headphone there, Dan.
Yeah, his webcam's slightly getting a little bit higher, and we're not really seeing Michael Koenig's head. Eventually, we're going to be looking at his ceiling, but he's trying to stay out of shot. But he's squirming again. Oh, that's a bit close to the tyres, I think, on that difficult right-hander.
Dan, it's been a while since I've driven the GT3 on Assetto. Is it quite loose up the circuit?
It's just generally quite loose, purely because it is a road-going car. So in a Assetto Corsa, when you're used to having slicks on, this is road tyres, and I feel like it does. Yeah, you feel like you got 500 horsepower on road tyres, and that's exactly what it is. But as a testament to how good Assetto Corsa is, though, anyone that has actually driven a 911, such as Charles Wilkin, was saying that it just feels super familiar and in keeping with what it is.
Well, did Michael Koenig just hit the barrier over there? I'm not too sure. We're going to go to ads and we'll all find out the answer to that question right after these breaks.
Hi, I'm Daniel Costello and I'm the head developer of the Simola virtual Hillclimb. So an initial basis of trying to detail the terrain was importing a Google Maps API for the latitude and longitude as well as the heighting. And then moving on from there, we got some good bumper camera footage that include pitch and roll, which was extremely accurate to start developing the road surface itself and all of the little nooks and crannies that happen within the road. Later on in the process, we started working on the modeling. So this pretty much took a photo of, say for instance, the estate's gate and sort of modeling from scratch all of the textures, all of the models' heightings, the glass panes, all of that, just from a photo. So that definitely took a while, as well as making from scratch the humans and the buildings, and it was quite intense within a 3D modeling space. Later on, once I was happy with sort of a beta version of the product, I gave it to some professional drivers, for instance, the Cronje brothers, and they sort of critiqued it. They're the professionals, right? So they went and they were like, no, there's a bump in this section. This road surface here has been tarred over differently, and around this corner. And they pretty much gave me the critical feedback that I needed to be able to make it as accurate as possible. Last final touch-ups that we did to the track was just sort of beautifying the area, populating it with more vegetation, humans, but more specifically than that, it was branding space, it was sponsorship space, allowing a future for the track to put in brand titles and so forth like that. You guys enjoy the track that we built here at Monarch, and I hope you guys have fun.
Well, there you have it, folks. Qualifying so far, Emile de Villiers at the top with a 42.1, but don't be fooled, folks. This is not a clear and present indication of what is actually going on. I don't know what is actually going on, especially not when it comes to Charles Wilkin. He's left us a little bit bewildered at this stage, Dan, but I think you might be onto what his strategy could be.
Yeah, I think he's just trying to take the pressure off from trying to match a very
Daniel,
hot time.
are you with us?
Yeah, I'm still here, so I'm waiting for Manuel is obviously going to have to go last now, and Charles Wilkin's going to set the benchmark time for him to try and beat. And that's what's interesting. Charles Wilkin had the opposite situation before, and I'm just trying to think he's just taken a bit of pressure off himself by going earlier. I don't think he'll mind going fifth, and I think the critical thing is he just wanted to post a time before Emile did.
Emile de Villiers, 42.1, a shatteringly fast time. Charles Wilkins did a 41.4 earlier on. So 0.6 of a second. Dan, what are your thoughts so far on that gap as an indicator of what we could going into round number 2 of this King of the Hill competition? Of course, happening over 2 days, 5 rounds in total. This is the second one. Dan.
Yeah, the perfect result for Wilkin was be try and catch a win in his favourite car and go into tomorrow on level points, almost as you were, will be the situation against his main rival in Emile de Villiers. But we've also got guys like Ruan Stevens, Dennis Mitchell. We've been speaking about it before. They're waiting. Their major sort of result would be a DNF from our top 2. So that's the last thing you want to do. You can still lose it today and not give yourself anything to tomorrow. So you just want to be in contention for those final 3 runs tomorrow.
A DNF would be absolutely catastrophic. Now, the thing is, again, we're back to the mental games here. Drivers don't want to focus on having too many of those negative thoughts going into a situation like that. We often see drivers having to go into quiet places to go, get into the zone, as they say, especially when you call like this. This is the kind of car where you absolutely have to be dialed in. Where do you think Charles Wilkin's mind is at this stage of the competition, considering what happened in Classic Friday with a mistake happening in the final round?
But he's getting wiser with each run, isn't he? So you think eventually it could be third time lucky for him. You'd expect him to be more used to this sort of pressure cooker environment as an ex-rally driver, and the fact that he's used to lining up at a stage and having one chance to really pull off that time. And that really is what this is. But I think the fact that it's such a short hill climb and you make a little mistake, it might just be a tiny one, and you can just lose so much time by the time you get to the top, and there's no point of recovery. So it's trying to be on his A game right from the start. So Charles Wilkin will go earlier. I think that might help him out with the pressure, and then he can post that benchmark time.
A game is exactly what these drivers need to bring. As you mentioned, Daniel, different disciplines of motorsport, you could drive a rally stage for 10 minutes. You could drive a gymkhana for 1.5 minutes. But hill climb, this one specifically, we've got 30 seconds left approximately before we get to race 2. And that's about how long an entire hill climb lasts. And when you're in the car, it flies past, the time flies past. It's sometimes even difficult to remember the details of what just happened. Drivers are so focused and in the zone. And that's exactly what these drivers have to be now going into round 2, with absolutely no mistakes to be made. Let's get it. The race number 2 is about to kick off, folks. My name is Ernest Page, joined by Daniel Haynes. Daniel sounds like he's all the way in the UK, but in fact, you are in Somerset West.
That's it. Don't let the accent fool you. I'm still here in SA, so I have driven this road plenty of times. Unfortunately, like, I know you're not supposed to, but you can't help yourself when you're at the bottom of this hill, even in a normal week. just giving it that little bit more. I should imagine quite a few guys get sort of found out going up this hill climb in the rest of the year a bit quicker than they should do.
Yes, I've been up there a couple of times myself. Actually got permission to go up and down the hill, but not at pace. And to explore the details of this hill is an incredible thing. I mean, just to look at the surface, to walk the circuit, to notice what the corners look like when you're standing alongside the road. It's an incredible piece of toy, and something that I underestimated in the beginning, but certainly have not. As preached, the legend, as they call him, Richard Clark, makes his way up the hill, and the GT3 singing its way. 43.1 for him. 43.1 for him. He's got no from yesterday, Clark. So we've got no.
That's not too bad, is it? Looking at other people's seeding time. Not
exactly,
too bad.
Not too bad at all. Sean Denham now, 16 years of age. Nice launch.
And he'll be looking not to drift this time round. I think he's having a little bit of connection issues, unfortunately. His car's skipping around a little bit, but he's trying to keep it smoother than he did on his qualifying run, because you're going to lose time even though you look pretty cool doing it with the back end out.
Well, normally I'd get excited about those sort of sideways antics, but now we have to get excited about the fact that he's keeping it tidy.
Oh, that's wide.
Oh, no! And just as we say that, touches the... does not spit out, though. Still in the race. Good composure there from the young Sean Denham. And you know what, in all seriousness, we've got to support these young drivers, and for him to take what he can from this experience is a win either way. Sean Denham gets a moral victory for all of this, regardless on this run. And in a situation of crisis, managed to keep the car tidying, only 1.5 seconds off the front runner at the moment.
And it's double experience points when you're only 16 years old, isn't it? Because you soak it in a lot better than us old timers. You'll learn more for the next runs. I think he'll even the experience from today will help him into tomorrow.
I do enjoy watching young drivers evolve. They've got, as you say, so much room to grow and potential that is yet unknown. So maximum potential that is yet unknown, and anything's possible for a young driver. And people that speak to me often say, anything's possible for older driver too. It's just absolutely not the case. Motorsport is certainly a young man's game. Charles Wilkin is proving otherwise, though. But Charles Wilkin has already got a couple of championships under his belt, and what he brings to this race is experience.
Yeah, there's a bit of a mixture of both, isn't it? We've got Michael Koenig now taken in. He's got a refreshed camera. We're looking cleanly at his face, looking focused, leaning with the corners. I love the fact that the head leans with the corners. Feel like you're helping the car around. It's a little bit like the old days when you're on PlayStation, moving the controller left and right to try and get you some extra bit of grip for some reason. But yeah, this one's looking smooth from Michael Koenig. I think he'll be quite happy as he comes across the line, hopefully. And it is 42.870.
Michael Koenig tops the leaderboards, and even that in itself is a moral victory for any of these drivers. They'll take that home with them. In one of the most competitive environments in sim racing, and possibly the world, you've got a situation where the fastest guy I'm at the top of the bull for at least a couple of laps. I think that's for Michael Koenig, that's got a real world championship. It's just one edge closer to a virtual championship title as well.
And that's only 0.2 off his PB, so I think he's got a potential to knock quite a few guys off. We're obviously going in reverse order, apart from Charles Wilkin. Everyone else is pretty much in reverse order as far as times go. And Koenig's had a bit of a 2.870. And we got Yassine Manuel's off into the tyres. That'll be a DNF. We didn't see that yesterday, did we? He's not quite been at the standard he was yesterday. That's unfortunate. He's going to get penalised on the points department there.
Yasin Manuel absolutely bolted those into the wall. The tyres caused it, but the tyres started it, but the wall finished as the car left stranded across the circuit there. Leon Leroux now. I gotta say, our marshals are a lot faster at clearing the real guys. I mean,
awesome for us, isn't it? We'd have at least an hour and a half of chatting if it was real life there, but we can actually get that car straight off the grid and Leon Leroux's going up it before the marshals have even managed to break a sweat.
Yeah. Leon Leroux, indeed. The road is clear for Leon Leroux up the hill.
This looks like he's not using anywhere near enough of the track. Is would be fast for Leon Leroux. Very cautious.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's actually it's a prerequisite at this stage, at this level. If you're not doing that, second off of Koenig though, but that means some potentials in the. Someone that hasn't quite got the championship in the bag is Charles Wilkin, and that can be said for him over the last 2 rounds of this competition, where last year we had our King of the Hill and this year we had Classic Friday. And now starting off our King of the Hill, Charles Wilkin, third time lucky, as you said earlier on, Dan. Hopefully that's the case. Third time's a charm for Charles. Let's see.
Let's see whether he can be the first driver to get into the 41s. And if this works for him, this could be something we'll see more of tomorrow. Will he be sandbagging in all of his qualifying runs and not wanting to go last? That's something that we'll have to wait and find out. But he's certainly capable of a 41 time here, Charles Wilkin, and setting a very difficult benchmark for De Villiers to come up with later as he goes last.
I think he was a little bit slow, but look at that line. Look at how wide Charles goes over there. I think he was a little bit slow through the one corner, but I do think that was cautious. I do think it's fast. How fast exactly? Well, that's how fast, folks. 42.2, 6/10 of a second up on Koenig in second position. Charles getting a 42.2. Yesterday he got a 41.4, so he's 6/10 of his personal best. Not too shabby. Let's look at our championship contender. 41.6 is his personal best, so a potential to have a bit of a showdown as we head into the final couple of rounds, with Ruan Stevens now getting off the line in a plume of smoke there in the fire-breathing orange Porsche GT3 RS over there. Wow, that car looks amazing in that color. Also one of the launch colors, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, it does look good, doesn't it? And Wilkins, I think that's a solid benchmark time, but it's certainly not an unbeatable time, isn't it? So it keeps it very interesting for us, because we can see there's a couple of drivers. Ruan Stevens is one of the drivers that can go quicker than a 42, but that's 42.2. But it would have to be a blinding run. It would have to be right up there with his personal best time. He's slowly coming through the last couple of bends here. Where's it going to be? Not enough.
Oh, Ruan Stevens, 4/10 of a second down in second position. 4/10 of a second position. Well, if he stays in the top 3 sitting, yesterday he came 7th overall. I mean, that could be a good result for him. Dennis Mitchell, the man with the VR goggles, and the only one with VR goggles, if I'm not mistaken. Dennis Mitchell, 41 years old, yesterday's winner, hooks up the Porsche 911 GT3 RS.
Back in the fire
Only
orange.
the engine, normally aspirated.
Look how close he was to the tyres there. Super, super close. Using all the track is Dennis Mitchell. He had a blinder in the Countach, what I deemed the hardest car of the entire weekend, and took it nicely. But he's made a mistake, majorly wide in the top. And that left-hander, yeah, that's going to cost him.
Dennis Mitchell makes a mistake and trying to recover, but that was in such a short course, Dan. I mean, it's not even over yet, but that mistake it's terminal.
Yeah, it's very similar to the mistake Wilkin made in the Ferrari yesterday, wasn't it? That corner's tricky. It's the tightest corner on the run, and if the back end steps out, it's curtains. You're finished. You're basically at the bottom of the pile by the time you get to the gate at the top.
2.1 seconds down puts him 6th place, and surely the so went off. When the deploy gets a clean run, he should be ahead of that. So Morne deploy now, gloves once more off, and very focused side view from him.
one of the drivers that is perfectly capable, and I'm fully expecting him over the 5 runs to have a blinder somewhere, but we haven't seen it quite yet in the yesterday's runs, and now we're in our 5th run here. Could the Porsche be the car for him? I'm not so sure. It didn't seem like the best start to me, to be quite honest. A little bit bogged down. Whether that's going to compound the error by the time he gets to the top and clears the gate, we'll wait out in a few short seconds.
Close to the tires goes our man Mornay Deployer, and across the line he goes too, safe and sound with 0.8 seconds. Behind our leader puts him in position. Young Javier, Emile de Villiers there, student from Belleville, just 14 years old. You are reading that correct, folks. 14, can you believe it? And piloting a year in our top 10 shootout. One of the quickest guys in the country in a Porsche GT3 on a set of this game custom designed by the guys at Monarch. He's way around the first corner.
And is this going to be enough?
Good for him.
Yeah, we're looking to see whether he can go in tomorrow with a points lead or whether he's going to go in level on points, super tight. But it's looking like a great run so far. He's certainly got the time in hand to get a win here and take that points advantage in tomorrow. Where's tight? And look, super tight as they go through these last couple of corners, and he's going to cross the line, and he takes it. 41, first guy into the 41s. That's a massive change of fortune.
I went a bit quiet there. I was just closely watching exactly what was happening there. Unbelievable turn of events, folks. We'll be right back after this break.
Well, you know, when they invited me to come and experience the Simola virtual hill climb, one has got an impression about the real life event, but nobody has ever told me that we're actually going to experience this. I must tell you that I was hugely surprised as to the quality of the product. It's an amazing experience, and I immediately recognize some of the beacons. You know, it's one thing to see the road and the direction, but it's completely a different thing to realize on the left-hand side of the road you actually see the beacons that you use as brake markers. So it was a very surprising and fantastic experience. You know, I come from the old school, so we learned motor racing through going to motor races, seeing racing drivers, and then starting to experience it. But I mean, the tools that people have nowadays and the benefit of, if there can be any benefit of COVID-19 lockdown, it forced all of us to be far more ingenious. And what an amazing program that the South African engineers and developers have created here in our back room in Cape Town, South Africa. So you can now use the program, have a full experience of the Knysna Hill Climb, which is a very limited event with numbers of competitors, and you can do this over and over and over without spending the amounts of money that one normally does with motorsport. So no, I think this is an amazing development. It's a wonderful platform. It just expands motorsport to the youth and to older people equally, that they can experience what we're experiencing as racing drivers. So it gets my 10 out of 10 support.
Hi, I'm Daniel Costello and I'm the head developer of the Simola virtual Hillclimb. So an initial basis of trying to detail the terrain was importing a Google Maps API for the latitude and longitude as well as the heighting. And then moving on from there, we got some good bumper camera footage that include pitch and roll, which was extremely accurate to start developing the road surface itself and all of the little nooks and crannies that happen within the road. Later on in the process, we started working on the modeling. So this pretty much took a photo of, say for instance, the estate gate, and sort of modeling from scratch all of the textures, all of the model's heightings, the glass panes, all of that, just from a photo. So that definitely took a while, as well as making from scratch the humans and the buildings, and it was quite intense within a 3D modeling space. Later on, once I was happy with sort of a beta version of the product, I gave it to some professional drivers, for instance, the Cronje brothers, and they sort of critiqued it. They're the professionals, right? So they went and they were like, no, there's a bump in this section. This road surface here has been tarred over differently and around this corner. And they pretty much gave me the critical feedback that I needed to be able to make it as accurate as possible. The last final touch-ups that we did to the track was just sort of beautifying the area, populating it with more vegetation, humans, but more specifically than that, it was branding space, it was sponsorship space, allowing a future for the track to put in brand titles and so forth like that. You guys enjoy the track that we built here at Monarch, and I hope you guys have fun.
And there you have it, folks. Emile de Villiers once again nets himself 12 points ahead of Charles Wilkin. Look at the gap, though, so tiny. So 10 points for him in second place. Ruan Stevens gets 8 with Michael Koenig back in the top 5 with 4 points. Leon Leroux rounds off the top 5 once again. And Dennis Mitchell, a disappointing 8th for him, I'm sure. But man, the way this has fallen to bear, it's actually quite familiar to what we've seen in seeding so far. So things off to, this kind of feels like the start of more of a marathon event where the guys are off to a bit of a jog for the first couple of meters at least.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Ernest. It's a little bit different from what we saw yesterday with all the surprises that happened in the classic cars. Here, it's sort of as you were. The only difference being that I'm pretty sure Wilkins fancied himself for a win in the 911, and that hasn't been the case. So he's going to have an evening to stew over his efforts. And knowing that he's going to go into tomorrow 4 points back, 24 points for Emile de Villiers. Great day's work for the young man. And Wilkins is going to have to try and find something else for a Sunday.
Look at the guys in 3rd and 4th position, also netting themselves joint double 3rd, double 4. And, for that kind of consistency, for those guys, maybe they weren't necessarily going for the win today. So for them, a model victory certainly going into tomorrow. But I think it's going to be different for the top 2 guys because, I'm sure everybody's here to win. But those 2 guys are certainly here to take this prize, and Charles Wilkin definitely wants to be that 3rd time lucky. Your highlight for today, Dan, I'm going to have to throw you in the spotlight. I got to apologize for going quiet this at the end of that round because Emile de Villiers, I'm a fan of his driving right now, and literally zoned in to watch an incredible performance by a very young man, soaking up the pressure, at least so far. Early days, but what a turn of events so far. Your favorite moment, Dan?
Yeah, I think it was the tactics that Charles Wilkins had in that Porsche. The fact that he sandbagged and thought, no, I want to put a benchmark time and see if the young boy cracks. And that didn't happen at all, did it? The young boy went up and absolutely aced it. He doesn't care where he goes. Emile de Villiers, he went early in the first round, he went last in the second round, and the end result was still the same. It was the fastest run up the hill, and he bagged himself 12 points in both events. So he hasn't put a foot wrong. The only thing I can see is if we get a DNF. And that could very well happen tomorrow. We've got 3 cars tomorrow, and they gradually get quicker. And especially that McLaren P1, that is a real handful. And then the R18 is just absolutely outrageous. So you're going to clip someone, I can guarantee you someone tomorrow is going to have a DNF clipping those tyres. It's just whether it'll be the top guys. If that does happen, then the guys like Ruin Stevens, Charles Wilkin, LaRue, anyone, it could be any one of those guys that still comes off as the overall King of the Hill champion.
Well, I think clipping the curbs is obviously going to be something that's on the hearts and minds of these guys. But you mentioned this yesterday, Dan. I want to jump back to the drag racing analogies. These guys need to get off the line quickly, and getting off the line quickly in a GT3 car is one thing. They're going to be starting the day off again tomorrow in a GT3 car. But after that, things get a lot faster, and it ends off with that R18, which is the kind of car that is absolutely not designed for standing starts. It's a rolling starts car. These guys are getting thrown into the deep end. The pressure of this event creates. I feel like the organizers, like Eric in the background, they are doing these things on purpose just to apply some I wouldn't say unwarranted, but certainly some additional pressure to these drivers.
Yeah, but to be King of the Hill, you've got to be the driver that can cope with all the different bits of machinery, and that's what we're going to see tomorrow. So we start with the BMW GT3, quite familiar to what we've already had, but instantly it changes. That P1 is just outrageously quick in a straight line, but you will be braking earlier than any other car for the weekend for that one, because it's still sort of road brakes. Unbelievably good road brakes, but road brakes nonetheless. It's super quick. And then the R18, I mean, that's almost an entirely different skill on its own. And it's quick across the line, but you're going through the gears so super quick because it doesn't rev particularly high, and you're just launching yourself through the gears, but the downforce is insane. So to be King of the Hill, you've got to master all the bits available to you, and I don't think it's all over yet, so we'll be interested to see how it works out tomorrow, whether Emile de Villiers can keep his cool and the young lad carry on in the sort of form that he's shown today.
There's a video out there of Chris Harris testing a GT3 P1, or at least a GT3 race car versus the road-going version. And, there are massive differences in those cars. And these guys are going to find that out first time. You guys can find out too. Don't forget to join us tomorrow at 12 o'clock for race number 3, race number 4 and 5. 3 rounds of action tomorrow as the championship hots up. Charles Wilkin, Emile de Villiers, Ruan Stevens battling it out tomorrow at midday. At noon, we meet again, folks. My name is Ernest Page, joined by Daniel Haynes, and of course, Monarch here today, making sure that things are running smoothly. Other Daniel hanging out in the Monarch production studio. Neisner Speed Festival, 80K, Kyle Army 9 Hour. My name is Ernest Page. Daniel Haynes, any closing words?
No, thoroughly enjoyed it. Now everyone can go off and watch the real hill climb. Enjoy it, guys. There's some great bits of machinery going up that hill climb. You don't want to miss it, but we'll see you back for the final of this virtual hill climb tomorrow. So I'll see you there.
See you guys then.